The quarterback market's been reset, and Patrick Mahomes has the best contract in this league. We'll tell you why today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, friends and neighbors. Thanks for making us your first listen here on Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. Make another Locked On show your next listen, because there's information everywhere and you want to get it. We appreciate you. Make sure you like and sub and do all those things, because we're available everywhere, every day, all the time. And I am pretty excited about that fact. So I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com and RGRFootball.com. I've been training athletes and covering this league for going on 20 years at this point. 9. I'm calling it 9, Chris, on this one. This is Chris Clark, who's been doing this show for 9 years as well. We are the original hosts. If you just found Locked On, we've been here since day one on this show, and we are going to continue. We've been covering this team for a lot longer than that. You can find Chris over at KC Chiefs Corner. All of his written work is there, and particularly to today's topic is very, very pertinent. We're going to cover some of the moves the Chiefs just made, including what's going on in the running back room, as we've discussed in the past. Before that, we will get to the new benchmark that makes Patrick Mahomes' contract look even better. But we start where we should start, at the top, because there is another benchmark that has just been made when the 49ers gave Brock Purdy a gargantuan, and I mean like epically big contract that, quite frankly, I think is a large overpayment. That's just my 2 cents. You know more about this contract ins and outs, so lay it on me. Where are you at on it?
Well, he is sitting at $53 million a year. That's his APY. And that is a huge sum of money for a quarterback that is yet to win a Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong, he's gotten them there, but yet to win one. And this is kind of the deal that it's not surprising that they got here. They've got a couple of quarterbacks that are above him in the salary cap rankings. Dak Prescott, most notably, at $60 million. Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and Trevor Lawrence, with Josh Allen also at $55 million. And he will be just below Tua Tagovailoa. I'll just say that, at 53.1 APY. So you look at this deal and it kind of makes sense from the aspect of, this is the top of the QB market. This is what players are getting paid. San Francisco wants to keep him in the long term. This is how they do it, and this is how the deal gets done. The big question is what happens when this starts kicking in? It won't kick in 2024. He'll get he'll get a signing bonus, obviously. Or sorry, in 2025, he'll get a signing bonus, but it won't really start kicking in for a couple of years. So how are they going to adjust, as they're going to need to, considering they'll be paying him $53 million a year? Who knows what the salary cap numbers will be?
Yeah, this is the tipping point for almost all organizations, that once you pay the quarterback what the quarterback market demands, and I think at this point it's just folly. I mean, there are multiple quarterbacks in this league now that are making $50 million that are the distributors of footballs. They're guys that move the offense, execute the scheme and the play design, and that's all well and good. But top of the market money belongs for those that just push the game vertically, that make the passing game what it has to be in order to be dominant. And unfortunately, especially in the case of guys like Tua, that doesn't necessarily go hand in hand. So from where you sit, do you feel like this market is overinflated in general, maybe more than it was 5 years ago? Or do you think it's just the relative cost of doing business, or am I overreacting?
I think it's the relative cost of doing business. They have a QB that they want in the 49ers organization for the long term. They're paying him $181 million in total guarantees, with $165 million coming in the first 3 years. He will be under contract for 1 year less than Patrick Mahomes' current contract runs. So that's also of note. And we'll talk about the Mahomes deal here in the next segment, but it's a lot of money to pay a player. And at this point, we're still waiting on a couple of the numbers to figure out, okay, what's the signing bonus? How is this all going to prorate? What are you looking at when it comes to that information? But the point is, he's getting paid. And now you, as an organization, are going to have to start adjusting the players that you have on your team and the types of players you're able to have on your team.
Yeah. This for the Chiefs, the angle on this is very straightforward. This makes it hard. You saw Deebo Samuel leave this team this season. Ayuk has been very troubled, shall we put it. And contract
After just
numbers
signing
are
a deal last year.
right, exactly. And so contracts are going to come up yet again. George Kittle, I know he's on a contract. I know he's getting older, just as Kels is. Is there another contract there that you're going to have to look at? We don't know. There's maybe more money going on the Niners roster on the defensive side than we expected, say, 2 years ago. But it definitely puts the crunch on what you can put around this quarterback, especially when you jump up to the level in the top 3 where he is here.
Yeah. And so you're going to be dealing with this for the next couple of years, trying to figure out all the QBs resetting the market. And you have Brock Purdy now resetting it at $53 million a year. There are not going to be many QBs in the NFL that have done more than Brock Purdy at this point. And you go look at the numbers. Dak Prescott is getting paid $7 million more, but that was because he's a free agent. Jordan Love hasn't done more than Brock Purdy. Trevor Lawrence hasn't done more than Brock Purdy. Josh Allen and Tua have not done more than Brock Purdy. You can make an argument about Jared Goff, but still probably not. So when you look at it from that aspect, has he got the team to the Super Bowl even though he hasn't actually won it? He's making more money or he's going to be making less money than some of the QBs that have done. He's going to be making, less money than some of the QBs that have done less than him. That's kind of surprising in my mind. But he's also getting paid. The key here, he's getting paid after his 3rd year. Mm-hmm. That's the key. They have him for next year, and then they could franchise him. So the reality is that they still have control for at least another 2 years. That's why he's doing this deal now. That's why it's a little bit cheaper than the rest of the contracts on the market.
Okay. And that's kudos to them because that's getting out ahead of it a little bit, at least as much as you can in this current situation. And I do think that foresight is probably going to pay off for them a bit, but it doesn't alleviate the initial crunch here that they're going to be in terms of dollars. And I think it's only this most recent example of how to get ahead of it, because the Chiefs did the best job of getting ahead of what that contract's impact is on the rest of your roster when they made this Mahomes deal. And when we compare them, it is very, very apparent just what a value the Mahomes contract is. We're going to run through it and all its pluses coming up next. Say goodbye to sticky notes, scribble plans on the fridge, or overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight Calendar is here to bring you the clarity to the chaos and help families that need it get organized without the stress. It's sleek, digital, and it syncs to your existing calendars, whether it's Google or Apple or Outlook or whatever you need. So you can put it all in one place for dinners, practices, school, reminders, everything. I need it. With multiple teenagers in multiple sports traveling around the country, you never know who's in town or who might even have a meal together. This helps immensely. You can get everything in one spot, synced up to all your calendars, so everything's right at your fingertips. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off of their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. So go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. Now, if you want all the information that you can't get here on audio and you want to see it, you can check it out at KC Chiefs Corner. Make sure you hit that and come over to NFL 33 as well and RGR Football. We appreciate your help. And check out another Locked On show next. If you need breaking news, we'll have it for you at 816-357-8781 so that you can get that on our text line. Now, thanks to the Locos and doing what they do every day, we're going to continue every day looking at this team from every aspect. And even though we're talking about the quarterback market, it comes back to the Patrick Mahomes contract. By my count, as I'm looking at this right now, Patrick Mahomes is the 15th highest paid quarterback on average in this league. And that is the net effect of doing such a large deal that was overblown and everyone cried about it at $500 million when it was signed. But it's utter value right now. It's not like Kmart value, but like it's pretty good value.
We said when this contract was signed that it was not going to be one of those things that you would look at the first year and go, okay, this is a great value. But a couple years down the road, it's going to be an extreme value. And it has been an extreme value. And you talk about his deal. his salary cap number for this year is $28 million. You're right. At APY, he is at like 15th in the NFL. He's behind Deshaun Watson. That's nuts.
Sorry, that makes me. Ooh.
Right. And Deshaun Watson's guaranteed. So, yeah, good luck with that one. But you look at Patrick Mahomes' deal. His salary cap number is $28 million this year. His salary cap number the next 2 years is over 70, is 78 next year and 74.5 the year after that. But the point is they have until 2031 where they can start continuing to roll some of these signing bonuses or some of these rolling bonuses to lower the salary cap number. And one of the things that we said a couple of years ago when they first did the restructure is that there was going to probably be another restructure in 2 or 3 years, because the reality of the QB market dictates that there's a restructure every couple of years. Mm-hmm. Because the reality is that you're looking at a QB who has played in 5 Super Bowls in 7 years, and there's no other QB that can even get close to that. And he deserves to be paid at the top of the market. He doesn't seem to really care that his contract number is near the top of the market, but the team wants to take care of him and wants him to be happy. And because of the way he structured his deal, because of what he was willing to do for Kansas City, it has made this team be able to go to 5 Super Bowls in 7 years. That's a direct reflection on him and his contract.
Agreed. And I'll take it a step further. I mean, there's all kinds of speculation that we could into, but it's things like Oakley and State Farm that are supplementing this in a way that we haven't seen since Tom Brady. And that's why they are the two, right? And at this point, I wonder if continued peak salary is even the goal for one Patrick Lavon. I just don't see it mattering to him, given the utter influx of everything else. I think that is, we kind of skipped it. By doing this long-term deal, the 10-year initial, you kind of skipped that. And you got him to the point where his success and the team's success is breeded so much outside the contract income that I don't think you're going to have any trouble. Even if they restructure again, those numbers are going to push out even more, right? You said 78 against the cap next year. Yep. I mean, you could see following another restructure getting to $100 million against the cap in a given year. But at some point, they have the ability, due to everything that he's doing elsewhere, to just rip the damn thing up and start over.
Well, they're going to have to rip it up.
Happening.
They're going to have to rip it up at some point. I don't think it's going to happen. It's obviously not going to happen this year. I don't know that it'll happen in 2026, although it could. But it's going to have to be something that they're going to have to look at in the next several years. I mean, you're going to have some other QB contracts that hit the market and they're going to cause some issues. But I think that you hit a key point, and this is something that I think we talked about originally when this contract came out, and we've continued to talk about as he's been playing through it, is his business acumen and his ability to see that if he is successful on the field, it's going to open up more money off the field than he could ever make on the field. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality. And I know I'm not saying that he shouldn't try to make the most he can on the football field, because you can only play for so long, and I get that. But the reality is like he is setting himself up. He has set himself up as the NFL. He is the face of the NFL. He is the NFL brand, and he is going to get paid handsomely for any kind of endorsement he does. And I'm not going to say that he is making anywhere near what his NFL contract is in endorsements, although maybe he is. But he's definitely making a decent chunk of that NFL contract every single year in endorsements and doing things in the offseason that are getting him paid. And we may see a commercial that comes out during the season. He probably recorded it in the off time, sitting there being produced and getting ready for being released.
I'd argue that the totality of it all adds up to more than his contract on any given year.
Maybe.
It's great to speculate. I'm sorry.
Think about
any of that.
Right. Think about all the different things that he's invested in. I mean, he's invested in the Royals at this point. He's invested in, the women's soccer team in Kansas City. There's, he's invested in he's invested in the city. Travis Kelce and him just opened up a restaurant in Kansas City, or they're in the middle of opening up a restaurant in Kansas City, which that's nothing in comparison to everything else. But the point is, He's done Whataburger in the Missouri area. That's a whole nother thing that he brought to that area and is invested in. You start looking at all the different things that his fame and his ability to raise his stature and raise his brand, his personal brand, has made him millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. And it will continue to make him millions upon millions. And if he continues to be successful and continues to go to the Super Bowl, he's just going to have more money that he can be asking for every single time the contract comes up. You want me to talk about your product? Okay, here's what I need.
And nobody can be happier about this than Clark Hunt, because we saw Robert Kraft be able to relax a little bit as Tom Brady didn't need the cap hits, didn't need the numbers as much as he got further on in his career in order to make sure that the team around him was that much better. I can see the same scenario happening. Now, that doesn't guarantee it. I can't say that that's what they're planning, but it feels like it very much is in the cards at this point.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because when they redo this contract, and I would say it's in the next couple of years that they're going to start having to look at redoing it, because you start looking at $78 million next year, $74 million the next year after that. You're going to have to readjust and make some adjustments and kick this can down the road a little bit further. And the question becomes at that point, how long does he sign for? And that's something we haven't talked about with all these other QBs. When you start looking at the contracts they're signing, at most 5-year deals. Some have been shorter than that, but at most 5-year deals. So in that case, you're sitting here looking at a scenario where they're making really good money for 5 years, and you can't really do as much with the cap because you can only spread it out over 5 years, whereas Mahomes had a 10-year contract, so you can spread his cap hit out even more. And I do think that in the coming years, they're going to have to adjust it more. And we'll see how they end up doing that. But this is a phenomenal contract, and it was very smart on his part. And it's funny because I'll never forget when he first got drafted, one of the things that we talked about was how smart his business decisions were, because he came out and I don't think he specifically came out and said it, but we heard different people saying he wasn't going to do ads his rookie year. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to get in the way of the team. He didn't want to get in competition with Alex Smith. He wanted to learn. He didn't want the distraction. Look at where it's got him. And people looked at that and probably said he's throwing money away. I don't think he cares. At this point, the decision was brilliant in his mind. The decision was brilliant because it set him up to where he started getting contract money and started getting promo deals when he actually became the starter. And your value is obviously going to be higher when you're the starter. So, it's and look at where he is now. I mean, and the other thing that he does that's so brilliant is he starts when he goes into brands that he truly believes in, he gets ownership of some sort. Yeah. That's huge too.
I mean, look where he is now. He's at 9.8% of the Chiefs cap in 2025. He's under 10% for the quarterback. That's ridiculous across the league. And it allows him to have the team spend that money elsewhere. They just did a little bit of that, and they're going to continue that, obviously, with a draft class. But they're looking at the running back room. A couple of things have happened. We're going to run over exactly what's going on with the running backs coming up next. And moves upon moves upon moves. You can get that much more over at KC Chiefs Corner and NFL 33. Moves are what makes the world go around, because Brett Veach likes to churn this roster, whether it's the bottom end in the 90 to the guys that you might not project to be on the practice squad, or 53, all the way up to backups. The Chiefs have done a couple of things. What stood out to you about the moves this weekend?
Well, I mean, they moved on from Keontae Ingram. I guess I'm not shocked by that, but it's a move that, it happens. I do think there was an injury. It's injury related, so I suppose there's a possibility of something down the road. But he's been in and out of Kansas City so many times, it's not really surprising that he's out. This isn't running back, but they also signed a guard, although I don't know that it really is going to change anything.
It doesn't feel like it to me. But
Yeah.
I found it interesting. Keontae Ingram is a guy who's gotten some reps and has been, I think, a practice squad candidate this whole time. But this wasn't a season-ending injury. They didn't have to do this. They chose to waive him at this point, along with a receiver who, quite frankly, was a very long shot to be able to even make the practice squad. So both those moves make sense. But it also condenses what is a running back room that I think is maybe not complete still, with Isaiah Pacheco clearly as your starter, but everything else up in the air after that from Kareem Hunt. We saw him put in 4 good games, and a couple of nice runs outside of that, but definitely not a 1B in my mind in terms of 18 to 20 games, depending on what this next season holds for us. And then Elijah Mitchell, newcomer, coming off of injury, not sure about that. And Bouchard, obviously a rookie and still learning that. There is another rookie, I believe, Elijah Young, that is on the roster. But I thought until this weekend that the number one thing they might do in terms of a new acquisition would be a defensive tackle. Now I'm starting to wonder if running back isn't up there with it. What do you think?
I have a hard time seeing them go running back just because of the number of guys that they already have in the room. Yeah, I agree with you. Kareem Hunt probably isn't a 1B answer, but when you take into account Kareem Hunt and Elijah Mitchell, I think that you probably have 1B in those two combined. And I think you're going to have both of those guys on the roster. So at that point, it becomes a matter of, okay, how many are you really going to have? Because Brashard Smith, I would imagine, may not make the roster. I mean, it's possible he doesn't. But you had Carson Steele last year, so that would be 4 if he doesn't make the roster. And he could be a fullback too, so maybe that plays into it. But, I mean, how many running backs are you going to have on this roster?
That's the question. They've carried 4 at times, even with Sherm around. So that can happen. It's just the math becomes more difficult that way, especially when you are unsettled at some of your offensive line positions, which probably on this roster will and likely should have the most depth on it because you still have to find the answers.
Yeah. And you have to get guys that are going to be able to contribute in multiple different ways, and you have to be able to use them on a regular basis. The problem that you have with both Kareem Hunt and, well, honestly, the problem that you have with the top 3 at this point is you have injury questions on all 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I hate saying it, but Pacheco got injured last year. Kareem Hunt's older and didn't look great after. I mean, he looked okay. He was able to do what they needed him to do in the playoffs, and that's great. But he wasn't going to be a guy that can run and do 10 carries for 16 games. I mean, that's not the player he is right now in his career. And Elijah Mitchell is coming off injury. So how you're in here in a situation where all 3 of them, it's possible. I hate saying it that way, but I mean, what are you going to do if all 3 of them are done by or are injured by week 4 or 5?
See, now you're starting to make my case for me. That's why another body stashed on the practice squad is almost a necessity, in my opinion.
Yeah, practice squad maybe, but I guess I was looking at it, and when you said bringing in another running back, I was looking at it from somebody that was going to be making the roster. I don't know that I see them having somebody that's going to step in and make the roster. I mean, it's possible, but can they get somebody on the practice squad? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, you would certainly hope so. They're going to have to do some things. There's going to be some natural attrition. When they get on the field here in the coming weeks, we'll have a little bit better idea, but that's only the beginning. So the evolution of this team and this 53 is going to continue to change. And I do think that the market itself and the variability that Patrick Mahomes leaves them open to doing some other things. What are they sitting at now? 12 in cap space still, I believe.
Let's see. Where are they right now in cap space? The Chiefs have, let's see, 10, just under 11 million.
Okay. So maybe a little bit less than I thought, but that combined
and they
with
still have the Trey Smith move. So
right. A lot of cash could come back onto the table if they reach that long-term deal. That's exactly where I was going as well.
Well, and that could also play into what they're going to end up doing with Patrick Mahomes' deal next year. It's not necessary that they go and spend all that money. They could spend some of it. It's also possible that they roll it and they start using it for next year and trying to figure out Mahomes' deal in the future.
Yeah. And that, again, just resets the whole thing in making the rest of this roster great. They're going to get after it, and they're going to make a couple more moves. We will make sure that we keep you informed of all of it. We'll break it all down for you like we always do. We're here 5 days a week, year round, no matter what. It might be summertime, and there might be no ball going on yet, but you got us to keep you informed. We hope that you will do that. Like, sub, hit that bell so you get notified when we put new shows up, when we go live, and all the fun things that we do. We appreciate you and you everydayers, the locos, being with us. Thanks for listening today, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.